I saw it when I got on. It said the webinar was in progress, and I wasn't sure whether that was the previous speaker or not. So I'm glad you texted.
No, we had a bit of a break between the before you and you, so that worked out well.
Okay.
It's funny the scheduling, because we just sent the calendar link and people could pick whatever time they wanted. We didn't, block out certain times or block out a time slot in between each speaker or anything like that. So we've learnt a lot about that for next time, I can tell you.
The back-to-back ones are pretty full on.
Oh, they're corkers. And when you're doing the back-to-back ones on your own, that's even worse. So what we've figured out is we need to do person about if we want to do back-to-back. So yeah. But I think it's nicer just to have a bit of a break in between, like to have an hour's break in between, because some people are watching them quite literally on every talk.
Yeah.
So, those people would be pretty impacted by so much information. Yeah.
Now I've got my outside inside today. I brought some.
Beautiful. Looks good.
Is that okay to leave there? Because it's kind of like I was going a bit cabin crazy yesterday, and I went for a walk and this tree's fallen down, so I stripped up half the foliage and brought it inside.
Perfect. That's exactly what you needed. Yeah.
So
have you watched any of the other speakers?
I have. I watched a lot in the early part of the week last week.
Okay, cool. So just to recap, for you may or may not have noticed just being a listener, but we'll pretty much let you talk, with the exception if there's something that needs to be clarified or that we think we need to ask on behalf of everybody. Also, what we'll do is we'll monitor the chat and also the Facebook Live. So you don't have to worry about who's saying what, because I'll make sure that I bring that in to the actual conversation and presentation. There's a way where I can privately message you through Zoom. Yeah. And I'll do that when you've got about 5 minutes left.
Right, yeah. So I would like to do about a 10 to 12 minute breath journey at the end that kind of brings together the talk. So can you just allow me enough time to do that?
Of course, yeah. So,
let me know when I've got 5.
What if I let you know when there's 15 minutes left?
Yeah.
And that way that'll be an indicator to you to get into that practical component within the next few minutes or something.
Yeah. Great.
15 minutes. So that means I'm going to let you know when it's 1:30.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay. So 1:30 is what you're working towards. You need to be getting into that practical bit somewhere around there, give or take.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because I don't have anything that indicates what time it is. Like I suppose,
Yeah, no, that's fine. Just I'll message you. You'll be good. And I'll say, if I need to say, we've got 2 minutes left and we're wrapping up or whatever, I'll say that as verbally as we go. So people have been kind of jumping on fairly early, so don't be surprised. There's no one else on with us now, but don't be surprised. Basically, from now on, people are jumping on and they're just kind of hanging around, waiting. I think it's particularly tricky, with all the time zones and depending on what time zone you're in, and people are just happy to be part of the whole admin process. Then it takes me a couple of minutes just to drop the Zoom into the live stream. And that's pretty much how it works. That's quite straightforward.
Excellent. And
looking forward to hearing your words of wisdom. Definitely.
Yeah. So it's going to be great.
So it's upgrading your life force, the next step in human evolution.
That's yeah. So
great title.
I might just well, it's and I've just had a whole weekend of it teaching, so I
just right there for you to
right there. Yeah.
Beautiful. Are you at home or in your office?
This is my breathwork room at home.
Right, your breathwork room at home. Cool.
Yeah. My office isn't near as tidy as this.
Why do you think I have the background on?
I've been doing all my Zoom calls in here because someone commented about my background. I thought, oh yeah, it's not that professional looking. so yeah.
We had a whole range. Vanessa, who works for me doing some social, designed a whole bunch of different ones for us to choose from. But this one was the best just because the text on the others was in. It made it tricky, basically. So we went with this one.
No, it's very it's handy to have that. And it's been going well all week. It's been all over, like every 5 seconds there's a human superhuman video on, and really interesting speakers. Some of the speakers I listened to last week were just amazing.
Yeah, some of them have been mind-blowing. And what's amazed me is that even though, you know, everyone's talking about where they're talking about a common theme in terms of being superhuman, but totally from their perspective. And I just love being able to pull out what's in common between what everybody's saying.
Yeah. I've been noticing that too. And the one on transhumanism the other night with Peter Zing, it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
What's going on there? It's just this, there's lots of...
One of his colleagues was on Anurag Gambhir, and it was on exponential consciousness. And he was fantastic, mind-blowing as well, in a similar kind of way, because he was talking about similar material. But right at the end, he started talking about spirituality and technology. And I'm like, next time, I just want you to speak about spirituality and technology, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because obviously what he's passionate about. So, yeah.
It was interesting on the transhumanism one. All the questions were around the ethics of it, basically.
Yeah, well, I think that's what the most people find it difficult to get their head around, you know. That. So, and it's also a topic where a lot of people don't know a lot about that topic. You know, unless you went to a conference or heard a speaker speaking about that or whatever, you would actually be very uneducated about that topic.
Well, I didn't really understand until then the advances in technology and how the integration with the human body and mind is you know, on its way.
That's what I think. A lot of people think, that's in 10 years that it's going to happen. You know, we're going to have flying cars in 20 years. No, we're not. Like, we've ordered them already. Do you know what I mean? So it's quite fascinating.
And I actually really love it because I loved hearing that talk, because I can, with my talk, it's about upgrading the life force in terms of the infinite intelligence that's already out there. And that's what we're going to have to do as a human race in order to be able to integrate these transhumanism type technologies in a way that's for the best for mankind.
Yeah, because we're going to have to be developing very, very more than adequate, like very exceptional skills at tapping into the quantum and being able to operate at that really high level to even continue existing as a species. Because otherwise, why wouldn't everyone just have robots? Why would you bother with humans? You know, it's just a really interesting thing. I think it definitely ups the ante in terms of evolution. I agree. Okay, we've got a few people jumping on. And hi, Patricia. Hi, Annie. We're just having a bit of a chit chat. And what I might do now, do you want me to call you Jenny or Jennylee?
Jenny's fine.
And so what I'll do now, Jenny, is just drop us over into the Facebook group.
And I do have a bit of a cough, so...
no worries. Just do what you need to do. You got some water there?
Yeah.
It'll just take me a minute or two. And inevitably, you're always live in the group before you think you're live in the group. So that's how these things work. We might even be live now if we are. Hello.
Yeah. You still got your cape. I was looking for my cape that I made my son when he was about 8. But he was Dracula, not a superhuman.
Well, you know what? I feel like Dracula in the cape, I have to say. Super Dracula.
Oh, yeah.
I don't usually wear such dramatic kind of colours.
No.
Okie dokie. Okay, we should be live as of now. So a massive hi to anyone who is joining us through Zoom. First of all, we've got more and more people jumping on Zoom as we go, so that's fantastic. And also a huge hello to anyone who's going to be jumping into the Facebook Live, which is also great. And this afternoon is one that I have been waiting for all week, I must admit, Jenny Taylor. Jenny and I and AJ all know each other fairly well. And AJ and myself have been clients of Jenny's with the breath work that she does. She's going to talk a little bit about that today. But the official title of Jenny's talk today is Upgrading Your Life Force, the Next Step in Human Evolution. And we just had a really brief conversation before we jumped on as to why it's so important in these times and in these days for us as humans, not only to evolve, but to evolve quickly and evolve cleverly and evolve in a way that allows us to create a sustainable presence on the planet. So there is so much you're going to gain from Jenny, and she's a wealth of information. So please feel free, if you haven't been on any of the other sessions, how this works is feel free to comment in the chat box. You can agree, you can disagree, you can put in links to something that's relevant to what Jenny's discussing. And then if you've got a very specific question that you want to make sure is answered by Jenny before the end of the session, make sure to go ahead and drop that in the Q&A box. And hi to Nicole and to Annie and to Shanti and anyone else jumping on. Okay, I think we are all good to go. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Jenny, and leave it in your capable hands.
Great, thanks, Michelle. And really been looking forward to today. My topic is upgrading your life force. And I chose to call it the next step in human evolution only because it's about a raising of consciousness, I guess. And Michelle and I were talking before about an earlier speaker who was speaking on transhumanism and integrating technology with the physical human and the physical consciousness. And we're talking about how important it's going to be for us to be able to make sound decisions from a body perspective, from a heart perspective, from a cognitive perspective, and from a spiritual perspective as we, as technology and humans start to integrate. You know, so not just doing it from let's do it because we can, but let's do it because it's for the greater good of all. Yeah. So my background is in breath work. So when I'm talking about upgrading the life force, I'm going to be talking through the lens of using your breath to do that. So breath is really the essence of life. It's actually what powers our existence, and it provides the fuel and life to our body, which is our vessel, or our spirit, the vessel of our spirit in this lifetime. It's what animates our body to be able to deliver what our soul's intent is in this life. So without breath, we can't deliver as a soul what we're meant to deliver in this lifetime. So, and breath connects and unites everything. It's the unifying force, if you like, around how we exist on the earth at this stage, and it doesn't segregate. So every living thing uses the breath. There's no segregation for gender, there's no segregation for status, there's or country of origin or sexual preference, or whether you're got a physical ability or not a physical ability. Breath is the unifying force. And humans rely on it, birds rely on it, animals rely on it, the vast oceans rely on it. From the from the smallest blade of grass to the tallest tree, everything in life on this planet relies on breath. So I just ask you to bring your awareness to your own breath right now. How are you breathing? And Mary Oliver said, listen, are you breathing just a little and calling it a life? And just have a think about that for the moment. Breath is really a reflection of how we are in the moment. It can foster clear thinking or confused thinking. It fosters being excited or being calm. It can either inhibit or help the healing process. It's a manifestation of whether we're tense or relaxed. And we don't only breathe in air, but we actually breathe in energy, right? And we're part of this great exchange of energy, not separate from it. And I love Greg Braden's book called The Divine Matrix. Michelle, I think you're the one who actually
I think so. Yeah.
lent it to me. And he talks about the cosmic blanket that begins and ends in the realm of the unknown and everything in between. And us as humans are part of this cosmic blanket that has layers, that's being woven, that's connected from, through layers and across time. And our whole life really takes place within this cosmic blanket. And what happens is that our intelligence gets diminished when we don't breathe properly. And I'm going to talk today about 4 areas. There's 4 areas. I'm going to talk about somatic, or the intelligence of the body. I'm going to talk about the feelings of the heart and what I'm calling emotional intelligence. I'm going to talk about cognitive intelligence and how we can upgrade that, and then talking about spiritual intelligence. And if you start with our body or a somatic, often with the pressures of life these days, we live a lot in our heads and actually forget to tap into our bodies. And our body is this amazing, amazing wealth of information. It's a great library, if you like. Every cell in our body holds the memory of every experience that we've ever had on this planet, from the time we were conceived to the age we are now. And every cell in our body vibrates with the energy of that. If you look at a cell under a microscope, which I had the opportunity to look at my blood cells under a microscope recently, and it's fascinating. I mean, your cells, if you can see the white blood cells, they've got little lights pulsating inside them, and they're like the garbage collectors of our blood system that go around and clean out our blood. So every cell in our body is vibrating at a particular resonance, and every time we don't take a full or complete breath, we're actually inhibiting the opportunity for our cells to vibrate at their highest vibration in our body system. And we limit our capacity to feel, to see, to hear, to smell, to do all that. We limit our stamina, our resilience, all those things that are connected to our physical being. We limit those. It's like having a blocked fuel system in your car. If the fuel system is blocked, then the fuel doesn't get through to the car, so the engine doesn't behave properly. So to reinvigorate those cells, we can use a lot of breathing techniques. We can use conscious breathing techniques, and AJ would know a lot about these, having done yoga. There's box breathing, which is a 4-sided breathing, which I won't go into the details of today, but this interrupts your stress cycle. We can lengthen the breath, which helps us build AJ breath, yes, 4 parts, which helps us build our resilience and our lung capacity. And we can do a whole heap of breathing, alternative nostril breathing. If you Google conscious breathing, there's like hundreds of them, and they all have a particular benefit to the body-brain system, I guess. So conscious breathing in that way.
Can you, Jen, just address a question in regards to people that have any kind of medical illness? You know, you might have asthma or something like that. Are they still able to learn breathing techniques that make it more efficient for them to breathe?
Absolutely. I have a lot of people come to me say that, oh, I've had breathing problems all my life. I've never been able to breathe, or I've got asthma. Breathing is actually, a lot of breathing issues are a result of other things going on as well. And I'll give you an example later when we get into the emotional side, but there's a lot of emotion that's attached to the lungs. The lungs actually in your physical body actually represent grief in terms of linking them to an emotion. So it's not even, especially now when we've got COVID-19 in the world, that is actually impacted directly on our lungs, or it hooks onto our lung system. It's no coincidence that's happening right now in this world, that we're being asked to actually come back and bring some awareness to the way we're breathing. The British, when the British landed in Hawaii in whenever they landed there the first time, probably the 1800s or something like that, the Hawaiians actually called the British a race of non-breathers.
And that's like the ultimate insult.
Yeah, exactly. And you know why, because the women wore those corsets, the men were buttoned up to here. The whole system was being restricted around breathing. And imagine, and if you think back on history, it's not. It kind of makes sense to me that that we had in the Western world, we've been restricted by our breathing, and look where it's got us.
Yeah, and it's fascinating to me because I think for a lot of people, when they're, even when they're stressed or when they're anxious or whatever, we don't automatically go, okay, the best thing for us to do right now is to breathe. I think many of us are so, and you're talking about the somatic impact, many of us are so disconnected and removed from our bodies that the idea of going to our body for the answer can be quite a foreign idea for lots of people.
Exactly. And, I heard someone say the other day, it's not all about what you can think the result to be. Sometimes you get the answer from your big toe or from your intuition or wherever that sits in your body. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I know, just to share a little bit about at least one of the breathwork sessions that I've done with you, you're very encouraging for your clients to tap in intuitively to where they're experiencing whatever it might be in their body. And it is amazing if you're really in that place. I totally can say that's in my left calf, that's in my right big toe, that's wherever it might be. But in a normal daily kind of running around doing my normal experience way, I'm so disembodied that I wouldn't have that consciousness. It's only by intentionally putting myself in situations like having a breathe with you and other kind of therapies that you might do.
Yeah.
All right, lovely. Thanks. Keep going. I'm going to jump off the screen now.
And to answer that person's question, the answer is yes, you can do the breathing techniques. By breathing, by learning to train yourself in your breathing, it may help those situations where you're struggling for breath as Beautiful. Well. And I'll give you an example of that. Feelings of the heart is the other. So moving from the body, but more to the emotional space, I guess. And we know the heart is an amazing organ. I think it was Andrew Hughes early in the week was talking about messages from the divine matrix or the universal energy comes into the heart first, goes to the gut, and then back up to the brain, that actually sends the signal to the rest of the body to do what the heart's desire is. So it's got an amazing intelligence. And if everything is flowing as energy, Michael Singer in his book The Untethered Soul, I like the way he puts it, he talks about life passing through us. In other words, that life and life's energy passes through us, and we get to experience in the moment every little aspect of that moment. Every emotion, every feeling we have, the smells, the joy, the not so joyous, whatever it is, we get to experience in the moment, and then we let it go and pass through us. and then the next experience comes in. For me, that's like the true definition of being in the present moment, being able to have life come through, experience it, and then let it go out the other side, right? So that gives you the opportunity to have every minute, every second, millisecond of life, to live it to the fullest without, dragging something from the past in, or worrying about what was going to happen next, which is what a lot of us do. And when we do this, when we don't let life pass through us in that way, it actually bumps up against something in our heart. Now, breathwork is based on the fact that every experience you have in life, from absolute trauma to pure joy, gets locked in our body at the cellular level if we don't get to allow ourselves to freely express the emotion in the time at the time. So if you've had a traumatic experience in your life and you didn't get to express that properly, then it stays in your heart and starts to build this wall, or encase your heart. And then the next experience that comes along in 50 years' time that unconsciously reminds you of that event bumps up against that and hasn't got anywhere to go. And because of that, it starts circling around and circling around and circling around, and building this case around the heart more, which I think Andrew talked about as well. He had armour, a picture of a little boy standing in armour, I remember.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that, because when you're working with people in a coaching sense, you see this all the time, where they're being triggered from original emotions that are stored in their body from when they're very young, but they're being triggered by either their partner or their boss or a colleague in their team. And what happens is then all this misplaced energy and misplaced emotion gets directed at the other person who's triggered you, when it's nothing about that person who's triggered you, and it's everything about the fact that you're still holding that, anger or resentment or whatever it might be from when you're a very young child. But we end up misallocating and misattributing the cause of our emotional angst to the person who's right in front of us at the time. It's
exactly,
yeah, it's quite.
And then they've got their stuff that's bumping up against their heart space and circling around, and there's just this, So the key really is to be able to process it as it comes in and allow life to pass through you. A great example I have, that I'm writing a case study on it at the moment with permission from the person. This person from November last year was starting to get really, really short of breath, had episodes where they had no breath, and it started with the bushfires the panic and the grief and the anxiety that was in the community around that time, around the bushfires, and came to a head at the end of March, when the whole COVID-19 thing came up, and people were panicking. We didn't know where to go. Everyone was like rabbits in the headlights. What's happening? Is this going to affect us? Is it going to be long term? All this sort of stuff. And she got to a point where she couldn't breathe one day, and she admitted herself to hospital. And then she, after a whole heap of tests, they couldn't find a thing. And this person's done a fair bit of personal development work and recognised that it could have been something that was triggered from her past, and she thought she knew what that was. Anyway, she came to see me, and what happened was she went back to a memory that was locked in her cellular memory around her 4-year-old that had swallowed a stone and had to have a tracheotomy, and was rushed to hospital, tipped upside down, people panicking everywhere, sirens going, the whole works. And this whole, what was happening in our community around that time was there was lots of sirens, there was lots of pictures on TV with people with things hanging out over them in the hospital. All this was triggering a physical response in her that was a memory from her 4-year-old. So that was just 100% confirmation that this stuff is true. If you don't get to resolve it in the past, it comes up. So we breathed around that, and I've checked in with her up to nearly a month later, and she's gone, I can't believe it. It's just gone. That whole electrical charge around that memory has gone.
And I think if I don't know this from her point of view, but it would be interesting to know, did that then lead to her feeling calmer on a everyday basis, more able to deal with crises, more relaxed about who she was as a person? Is that where that led for her?
Yeah, absolutely. She was really, really, really anxious because, when you can't breathe, it brings it up. This is a really extreme case, and it was directly linked to her breathing, which was really interesting. But it is absolutely to be true. So, and we know from the work that you've put out, Michelle, you and AJ put out around the Dr. David Hawkins, and around the levels of consciousness, and how that all the emotions have their own vibration. Shame is right down there vibrating at 30, whatever the measurement is, and love's way up there in the 500. So the more we can process this material that's low in the vibrational level and process it out of our system, the more available our system is to vibrate at a higher level, which is, giving us more life force and really upgrading that. It's kind of like upgrading the software on your computer. You wouldn't, if you were to go to a new job and sit down at a computer that was an old 286 or something like that from the 1980s, you just go, what the hell?
Yeah.
And we don't do that with our bodies, though, and our body brain.
I think it's a really great example, and it's a great insight for people who might have let's say you have some repetitive thing that you do in your own life that you don't like, and you don't like the outcome of it, and it's not healthy for you, and it's just not a good thing that you do, but it's a negative behavior that you've developed. And sometimes you can pursue all these different avenues of conscious methodologies of ways to try to do something differently, but often you don't find success until you start working with breath work or hypnotherapy or something else that is tapping into the subconscious mind rather than the conscious mind. Because I can't consciously say that I have anger from when I had a fight with my dad when I was 3 and I feel it in my foot. Like, that's just ludicrous if you think of it at a totally conscious level. But if I'm working with my subconscious, I can absolutely say that with full assurance that I'm right, and I think it's just an interesting perspective to know, are we tapping into our consciousness to resolve this one, or our subconscious mind to resolve it?
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be an early childhood memory. A lot of the stuff is that, but it could be something more recent as well. So I guess the more we hang on to this stuff, and more that new stuff comes in and bumps up against it and starts circling around in our body, the less and less our heart has the ability to expand into the big things of love and peace and calm, and really expand that electromagnetic field that normally generates out to about 3 meters around us. So then if we move up our body into our brain, into our cognitive upgrade, I sort of liken this on the computer theme to the defragging, getting rid of all the rubbish that's in there. One of the popular models that is around is that thought is creative, and we have a thought which turns into an action, which gives us a result, which then impacts our 4 bodies, our body, our spiritual body, our emotional body, and our physical body. And then from that, we take some learning, which inputs our belief system, which then creates the next thought. And upgrading your life force is about really clearing out those unwanted, unhelpful thought patterns that we have, because we know that thought manifests. And I love Sister Jayanta the other night. She framed it up as the mind rules matter. And the way she put it, there was just no argument in that. She gave some great examples of it. It's just, that's just it. And whether you believe it or not, doesn't matter, because it's true. That's what I got from her. And her example of her 104-year-old friend who was sitting in a frail body but had a really strong mind, was still traveling when she was 103 and a half around Europe and stuff like that. So if you looked at her, you'd go, how could a person that frail be still traveling? Yet her mind was so strong and her mind was so clear and so devoid, I'm guessing, of being, you know, drawn to staying in below the line in all the negative mental mass, that she, it powered her life energy. I don't know if that's true. If that's the way you heard it. If that's the way you heard it, AJ, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. Can I just, there's someone who's just asked a question. You let me know if you'd like to deal with it now or at the end. It's up to you. About, the question is, how do you tap into your subconscious mind?
Okay, it's not something you can just do in the consciousness. So you need to be meditating, you need to be doing breath work with a facilitator, you need to be doing, you know, going to hypnotherapy, any of the modalities that go past what your conscious mind can think it knows. And what I love about breath work is it's kind of your breath is the conduit between linking spirit or the soul to, or your higher consciousness to your subconscious and bypassing.
I think the answer to that question is contact Jenny for a breath work. I think that's the best.
Yeah, okay. And it depends where you are, but you can do it. And breathwork takes you into an altered state of consciousness. So you're quite conscious in that you know what's going on, yet you go to another realm of your subconscious to travel into that space as well. So one thing that we talk about in breathwork is the personal lie, and it's really the core of, it can be the core of a whole heap of poor belief systems. And the personal lie, from a thought or cognitive perspective, is the most limiting belief or the most negative thought you have about yourself. Now, we think about 60,000 thoughts a day, and if you think about the English language, there's 3,000 words that describe a negative emotion compared to 1,000 words that describe a positive emotion. So where is our, as collectively as humanity, where is our thought, where do our thoughts tend to go first? And that's to the negative. Rarely do people recall the good times in a relationship. They always recall the bad times in a relationship, particularly if the relationship isn't going well. So the personal lie is something that we work on with breath work. And yes,
I don't know if you're reading those comments that Stephen just put in. It is true. I knew Daddy Junkie, who is who you were talking about, the 104-year-old well, and she transcended matter. And AJ said, yep, that's exactly what's going on for her. Her spirit was stronger than her human vessel.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. And at 104, what an amazing life she would have had.
Absolutely.
The other thing about the cognitive ability is you can't have a loving thought and a challenging thought in the same space at the same time. They've always, you've got to have one or the other, and it gets too hard to flick between the two. So people usually are more positive thinkers or they're more negative thinkers. I don't know if people in your life like that. But what happens when you get to defrag that computer and breathe out those negative thoughts is that, and along with that will come the emotion to it. So you don't get the attachment to, or the electrical charge to the memory that was there. You can still have the memory without the electrical charge, I guess. What happens when we clear that out is it frees our mind to be more creative. It frees our mind to be more positive and to be open to solve more problems and to just be someone who's contributing in your world and can have all those things. So we can use our breath to change our mental state. The last area is the spiritual upgrade. And spirit I liken to being connected to self. So I know Andrew talked about this in terms of his anagrams as well. For me, a lot of what's going on in the world is a direct result of humanity not being connected to themselves and being disconnected from themselves, feeling disconnected from the unifying force of the, what breathes in, what is the divine matrix. And disconnection leads to illness and dis-ease in the body. There's a lot of work written by the Louise Hay or Inna Segal or a whole heap of authors around the direct link between what you're thinking, what emotions you hang on to, and dis-ease in your body, and manifesting illnesses and things like that. So, and as a soul, as we travel through life, there's always an invitation for us to give parts of ourselves away. I don't know if anyone's ever had their first love or a significant other in their life that they've felt like they've given a part of their soul to, or given their heart away to someone, or they've loved living in a place, and when they had to move on, they feel like they left a part of themselves there, or they felt like someone's invaded their space and the energy of that person has never left them. This is all really interesting work. Hi, Nosh. Yes, you've experienced that? Yeah. This is all interesting work that comes up in breathwork around the soul, and actually bringing those soul parts or teasing those soul parts apart that don't belong to you, and bringing them back so you can become a whole and complete person again. So this, and reconnecting to your heart and reconnecting with that spirit and essence that's yours. So all interesting work, so becoming less than whole from a spiritual perspective. And I know that, conscious breathing is part of coming back to self, sitting, doing mindfulness work, doing yoga, all the breathing that goes with that is all part of bringing yourself back, calming yourself down, and locating those parts of yourself. I often hear it when people say they just feel empty inside, or life should be good, but I just don't, it's just not doing it for me. I can't understand why. Those types of comments are usually an indication that there's something going on at the spiritual level, that they're just not feeling whole anymore. So I hope that kind of makes sense to people. What I wanted to do to finish up today was to do a beautiful journey with you, with your breath, and bring together those five elements actually, and really tap into the divine intelligence of your somatic intelligence, your heart intelligence, your cognitive intelligence, and your spiritual intelligence, and really tapping into the quantum intelligence. And this is a gift that was given to the breathwork community at the recent World Breathing Day by Jessica Dibb. If you want to find out in general more things about breathwork, the International Breathwork Foundation has a website, and the Australian Breathwork Foundation has a website also. You can get lots of material and resources from there. So I just wanted to, if you could allow me to take you through about a 10 to 15 minute process of deep breathing and deeply connecting to your breath and the divine quantum intelligence. Is that okay with everyone? Michelle's already got her eyes closed. I'm there, yeah. Okay, so your breath can really integrate all of these aspects. So just with your eyes open or closed, and they might close during the process, bring your awareness to your breath. And the invitation will be to really breathe deeply into your belly, into a relaxed belly. For a lot of us women, we get told to suck our bellies in. So I want you to just relax your belly, breathing deeply into your belly and then up into your chest. So allowing your diaphragm to expand and your rib cage to expand out, so you can get the fullness of your breath up into your chest and give your lungs the maximum volume. And then as you breathe out, let your chest soften, your ribs relax, your belly goes down, and you breathe out. And then on the in-breath, you're bringing it down into your belly and up into your chest, sort of creating a wave in or out, in and out. And this can be as fast or as slow as you would like. And as you breathe, physical space you're in, whether you're inside or outside or in an office or wherever you are, just feel into that physical space. Sense what's outside, what the earth is around you, what's surrounding where you're sitting. And I just invite you to scan with your inner eye the life force that's in everything. The physical life force. I don't want you to try to sense it. I want you to try and sense it with your body. I don't want you to visualize it. We're not feeling the love for it. Really want you to expand your physical sense and feel the life force. Feel the life force of the chair you're sitting in. If you're sitting next to a plant, not visualizing the plant, not expressing your love for the plant, but really feeling the life force emanating from that plant, from that table that you're next to, from the brick that's in your house. Sense the actual life force, the electricity coming from that animate or inanimate thing, the energy of the wood. It might be the energy of the sunlight coming through the window. It might be the energy or life force of the wind that you can hear swirling around your house, or the clouds in the sky. Just really feel the actual life force. Sense it with every pore of your body. Breathing in and out as in a wave as you sense the life force. Now, if we're allowing and not shutting down that, our sense of the energy will get stronger, and we'll need to breathe more deeply. We'll need to breathe more deeply so our body, because our body is going to have to transform itself if we are open to this life force and energy that surrounds us. We're going to have to breathe more deeply and fully all the time to be in tune to that much energy. And when you're breathing, it's really okay to yawn, because that's the body just saying, give me more, give me more. And the reason we're going to have to learn to breathe more fully and deeply is because everything we're sensing from every life force, every bit of life force out there, has come from the Big Bang. Every cell, every atom of existence is a holographic image of the original primordial force that was around the Big Bang. Because the law of conservation says that this energy has never disappeared, it's just redistributed all the time. So we're opening to the divine energy and to the divine matrix. Let's keep breathing deeply and fully to be able to stay present in this life force as a physical sensation. Keep breathing. Now begin to inhabit the sensations of your own body. Now, not the interpretation of what you think it feels like, but your actual lived sensation of the breath. inhabit the sensation of your rib cage as it moves up and down with the breath. What is your rib cage feeling and what energy is coming from that? Imagine, inhabit the sensation of your feet, your back, any place in your body where you can feel the life force coming from within. Feeling it not as a concept, but as a physical sensation. And keep taking deep breaths to say yes to that life force. Keep saying yes to that internally driven life force that comes from your cells vibrating every minute of the day. Actually inhabit them. It's got a vast, vast intelligence. If you think about our cells being generated from the energy from the Big Bang, coming down through ancestral lines from everything that's ever happened before, that's where our energy from our cells comes from. Tapping into that vast somatic energy that resides in your body. Connect with that physicality of it. It's huge. Just stay with that for a minute. Breathing more deeply as the energy builds. Allowing your breath to support you to be able to hold this, tap into this energy. Your breath is your true ally. When it enters your body, it becomes part of you. Now the invitation is your hands to your heart or over your chest. You can bring one or two. Breathing deeply into your belly and up into your chest and back out like a wave. I want you to cup your hands over your heart, just as if your heart was going to melt. You could catch it in your cupped hands. And I'm going to ask you to feel what it would feel like if every new soul, baby, that was born from this moment forward was born in love. That the first breath they ever took was because there was pure love in the world and nothing else. And that there would be no fear. It's feeling into the energy of what it would be like for this planet if every baby from this day forward was born in a world where there was no fear. It was pure love. How would that change the planet? Let your heart feel like what it would feel like if that day had come and it was here and it was actually happening. How would your heart feel? Breathing into the expansion of your heart. Breathing through any emotions that come up. There's tears of joy. There's peace. Just allowing whatever comes up, knowing that from this day forward, every new soul was born into love. allowing your heart to soften. And knowing that there's no need to you don't need to be afraid anymore. Everything's love. And how that would feel to be liberated from the fear in the world and there be only love. So feel into the energy of expanding your heart into that. Let's breathe deeply with that. This is emotional intelligence. So keep breathing the full body breath and move your attention to the center of your head. And be aware that every time you breathe, you're animating your brain. Giving life to your brain, you're supporting those synapses that connect and electrify your brain. And often in this work, we get told that it's not good to be in our brain, but what the not good part is really about letting go of the negative thoughts and letting go of the negative beliefs and clearing out and defragging that brain so we can allow our brain to do what it's meant to do, which is, you know, remember and feel what it feels like to know that you know something, to discover a new discovery, to be creative from the brain space, how that feels and how positive it is when we're all thinking for the good of the planet. Imagine what that would be like, and really honouring that we are given the gift to have this organ in our body that can just create from that space. How electrifying and exhilarating is it when you figure something out, when you learn, when you discover something new. Really honouring that. So being aware of your breath really helps you to electrify and animate your capacity to know these things, to understand, to discover. This is cognitive intelligence. And through cognitive intelligence, we also know that it's our breath can support all these manifesting and building and becoming more intelligent in our somatic, in our heart, in our cognitive intelligence. So it makes sense to partner with our breath going forward, really allowing our breath to support us to tap into that infinite, vast, infinite knowledge that sits out there in the divine matrix, or the universal energy, or whatever you want to call it. Being aware of all these, and at the same time becoming aware of your breath. As you keep breathing, just becoming aware of slowly deepening and opening up to the infiniteness of spirit itself, of the energy that surrounds us. You know, if everything's energy, as we breathe in the energy of our breath through our nostrils are energy, our throat's energy. So our energy of our breath is rubbing against the energy of our nose and our throat and our body. There is no separation. Just breathing into knowing and understanding and feeling that the energy of everyone on this call is the same energy that I hold in my existence. There is no separation. The hand that is the hand of the person laying in the bed with COVID-19 is the same hand that we are all tapped into the same energy. The energy of the bird flying overhead, of the car driving up the street, of the person taking out their garbage bin. It's all the same energy. So we're all breathing at a planetary level, the same breath, the same energy that's come from the primordial Big Bang. Imagine what that means.
Just to let you know, Jennylee, we will need to come to a close very, very soon. So
I know, 2 minutes. 2 minutes. So imagine if we just kept practicing that as a human race from now on, getting better and better at it, cleaning out our somatic bodies, invigorating our somatic bodies, cleaning out our emotional bodies from their attachment to all those negative things or things that keep coming up for us, cleaning out our thoughts and using our breath to really support us. And as you come back into your physical body, into the room you're sitting in, knowing that you've been tapped into the divine energy, just come back to your breath. Back to your normal breath, allowing your body to settle. Just noticing how you're feeling right now. You might be having a buzzing, you might have some other sensation. Giving yourself time just to settle back into that. So today was about bringing your awareness really to how powerful your breath is. How powerful your breath is to upgrading your somatic intelligence, the intelligence of your body, your heart intelligence, your emotional intelligence, your cognitive intelligence, cleaning up your thoughts and understanding that the brain is a beautiful tool as well, and your spiritual intelligence. So I hope you enjoyed that. So I fell asleep, but consciously.
Yeah, I think such a tangible and practical as well as experiential way for us to be part of that. So I just want to say a massive thank you in regards to that. Jenny, how can people find you if they want to stay in contact or ask you specific questions? Because we're not going to have question time now because we've run out of time.
Yeah.
So how do people contact you directly if they want to?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, Jennylee Taylor. I have a website, breatheandbu.com.au.
breatheandbu.com.au. Okay, what I might get you to do, Jen, is just to jump into the group a little bit later on and just to pop all those links into the group. People can directly see that. So a massive thank you to everyone who was involved in this session. I loved the practical nature of it, particularly given that we've only had 1 or 2 other people, I think, that have taken that sort of approach. So it was beautiful. And for those people that asked the question about tapping into your subconscious mind, we just did it live in session. So there's a really good tangible example of what it's like to tap into those different layers of consciousness. For those who are still hanging around after this, we have Loretta speaking at 2:00. She's going to be talking about the biofield and self-mastery. So you've just got time to go and get a quick cuppa and come back. And thank you again, Jenny. Appreciate your time and energy and your wisdom and insight.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, AJ. Enjoy, everyone.
See you, everyone. Thank you.